All right. Listen, okay? I could talk about Mustangs since they had about 62 decades of history, but I'm not about to dust off the old shelves to go through each independent generation, because the video would be like 47 minutes long with 12 ads. Now, don't get me wrong. The revenue would be nice.
But
that's just too much, all right? This ain't like a series. This is like a mini series. This is like a little, you know, like Friday night little flirt text, okay? This is nothing crazy, okay? If you want us to talk about the other generations, you know, maybe we'll make another So You Want, so we can just squeeze that old dry. Maybe, you know, whatever. But this time we're bringing it back to a new generation, a new face, all right? The car that brought a younger generation of automotive enthusiasts to domestics? What? A domestic muscle that said, hey, we can be fun too, all right? We can be modified, all right? We can do the air suspension. We can be fast and fun and not be terrible on the old pocketbook. I'm Alex at FI on Instagram, and today we're gonna be talking about the 6th generation, because Americans don't like calling them marks or anything like that, so it's just the 6th generation, okay? It's whatever. All right, anyway, we're talking about the car that has got the low slopey lines, the angry aggressive, the one that the new gen automotive enthusiasts are loving, the 6th generation Ford Mustang. And if you're jumping into this mess of a video, don't forget to subscribe so we can keep making banging videos like this. And if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up at fitmentindustries.com. We've got it all for your 6th generation Ford Mustang or otherwise. The 6th generation Mustang is the one that we all know and love today, okay? It's the newer one. It's unveiled all the way back a year after my high school graduation in 2013. 2012 or bust, son. The 6th generation Mustang held the project code name of the S-550, all right? Or S550, which is what you hear in the automotive culture pretty much anytime this car is mentioned, okay? This generation would see a pretty large overhaul from its 5th generation counterpart. Like, you remember when you knew somebody and then one day they came in with the makeup and the hair was all nice, they got a new shirt, new pants, you're like, wow. Impressive, all right? The Mustang got that. It got about 1.5 inches wider, got 1.5 inches lower, and it got a few new splashes of color. Why? Well, the new Mustang was starting to feel the fatigue of its own body style. If you remember the 5th generation, a little bit of an old boy, a little bit of a cranky little guy, okay? It was kind of starting to feel it, if you know what I mean. And there was a guy that was named Dave Perchek that pretty much had worked at Ford Motor Company since 1994, and he stepped in and he said, I got it, all right? This man had done it all, from working on door panels at the car parts plant to pretty much being in charge of the entire new global performance division. Dave and exterior design director Joel and Kamal Surik, okay, all had to work around an extremely short time frame due to the original design being rejected by Ford executives. Because executives get to say no all the time, okay? And if you watch Ford versus Ferrari, I got it. You know, that's just, I assume that's how it is, but it probably isn't, okay? Didn't matter because the Ford team moved so fast through the production cycle for the design that they ended up being almost 20 months ahead of schedule for just the exterior design. Now, that's pretty gnarly. Now, imagine being 20 months ahead on a project, said no one ever, because nobody is ever that far ahead on anything in their life. And if you are, you've got too much free time on your hands. The team legitimately flew through development of the Mustang, and they pretty much crushed it. But that doesn't mean they missed the mark on the car at all, because it still had a whole slew of new things that made the car really exciting. It had a new independent rear suspension, which is specifically developed for this bad boy, okay? It's what made the car capable of doing a lot of the aftermarket stuff that you're now capable of doing. It was the first global Ford Mustang that came in right-hand drive. It had earned a 5-star rating from the NHTSA. It was safe, right? Safety, top priority. At release, it came in 3 different engine trims, some auto or manual options, okay? It had a few different unique stuff with it and trims that went along with the whole thing, okay? And dare I say it, this generation even came with a 2.3-liter EcoBoost engine. And everyone was petrified of that until they realized you could do just a ton to the motors. all of a sudden everybody loved the car again, even if it was an EcoBoost. Okay? When the Ford Mustang was originally released, those that tuck in their t-shirts cried. It was finally a new generation Mustang. But even with people having some hesitations towards the new design, because everybody doesn't like new stuff, Supra, NSX, pretty much everything, it didn't take long for people to start loving it, Supra. And we could go into the fact that the Ford Mustang had way too many trims and special editions, like the 50-year limited edition. It had a fighter jet F-35 edition. It came in a Lightning II Roush, had an RS model, had some Hennessy models with it, had the Shelby American GT. There was like a Warrior model, I think. There was a lot, okay? There was even Childish Gambino, Fisker.
Fiskers don't make noise when they start up, just so you know.
There's a Fisker Rocket Edition. The ones that you actually really need to know though are the following. The standard Mustang was a V6 with 300 horsepower, was made from 2014 to 2017, okay? The EcoBoost was made from 2015 to now, okay? And then you had the 310 horsepower in that bad boy, and then you had the Mustang GT, which was made from 2014 to present. That had the 307 cubic V8, 435 or 470 horsepower, depending on how new it was. Then you had the ones that made angels' ears just bleed. You had the GT 350, which really does sound like if Angels got a hold of an automatic gun, because the hot diggity dog does that thing sound good. Pretty much sounds really good because it has a flat plane crankshaft, and that's what makes the exhaust sound good for the most part. Came in a 315 cubic inch, 5.2 liter V8 with 526 horsepower, 430 foot-pounds torque. Okay, muscle guys or muscle car guys, you need to know these numbers, okay? Because old school car guys, this is what they talk about. All right, they ain't talking about your camber or how wide your wheels are. Okay, they're talking about cubics. But over time, all the different trim models of the Mustang, there was finally a time where the cars kind of really just like price point just went that way, all right? And then all of a sudden, it happened. Hello, yes, hi. Just real quick, is the Ford Mustang available for under $25,000? Let me check Craigslist. Yeah, yep, still cheap. All right, cool. I'm gonna let everyone in the world know that likes aftermarket cars that they're gonna wanna go pick one up. All right, sounds good.
Brother.
That's pretty much what happened, okay? Now, we're not here to chat history. If you want that, you can go on over to the Discovery Channel, which is somehow now turned into a reality TV show. So I actually take that all back. So we're gonna talk about you actually wanting one, okay? So you want a 6th gen Ford Mustang. Well, set down your Mountain Dew and grab your favorite Cletus McFarlane hat.
And it runs purely on bald eagles and Mountain Dew.
Because we're about to jump in this domestic freedom bird of a car. Because that's what it is. The 6th generation Ford Mustang hits home for a lot of new generation automotive enthusiasts. It's quick, all right? It's new. And most importantly, they aren't really that expensive. Now, obviously the GT350 don't count, all right? There's some trims that just don't count. That's one of them, okay? Now, they feature the iconic long nose, short butt design that is reminiscent of 70s Datsuns and other classic fastbacks, which is really why a lot of people have a tendency to love this generation Mustang. That, and the car looks really properly good for being a domestic muscle car, which is one of the things that domestic muscle cars sometimes really fall short on. AccuAir and Airlift came on board to start supplying air suspension kits for this car, and that's when the world pretty much went crazy. That had a lot to do with the fact that Mustang switched over their suspension system and made it a little bit more innovative to match a lot of the products that were traditionally only made for JDM cars, because domestics are a little bit farther behind. But then you had CLINCHED come on board with producing over fenders for it, and the world went bonkers, all right? You had the air, then you had the fenders. Now wheel companies started making fitment specific wheels for the 6th gen Mustang, and bang, all of a sudden you had cars that had aftermarket support, okay? That was not from a 60 or 90-year-old company. The support from the aftermarket community on this platform exploded and ultimately just came out of nowhere, all right? Everything you'd expect to be available for a JDM car or a tuner car was now available for this muscle car, and it was actually good-looking stuff. What? How? splitters, diffusers, headlights, and side skirts, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much everything you wanted, air suspension and 3-piece wheels. It was a match made in heaven. It featured everything that you wanted about nice slopey body lines of new gen JDM cars, but it still had the domestic fast, gurgly exhaust note that you wanted to have in your car. The 6th Gen Mustang is likely one of the few domestic cars that has found a way to bridge the gap between domestic cars and actual new gen modification. They're reliable because it's still a domestic. It's still mostly a V8 or an EcoBoost, all right? They're not insanely expensive because they're a domestic. They sound good because they're a domestic, and they scoot above the rest right out of the get-go. The interiors aren't bad when you compare it to previous generation Mustangs, and they look fairly mean. And if you remember the old school Gen Mustangs, you know that the vents would pop out and the cup holders came out and everything broke and everything was made of plastic. The Ford Mustang has become one of the most popular cars in our own aftermarket car gallery, which means people are loving them. And by the way, if you have one, add it to our gallery at fitmentindustries.com/ad, because we like that info and we put it up on our Instagram. It's pretty cool, and then you get a shout out and we get to see what you did to your car. It's pretty nice. Some people have issues with muscle cars, right? They blame the bad turning or the lackluster build quality, but Ford actually kind of nailed it this one and sent it right out of the park. Now don't get me wrong, every car has some shortcomings, and the 6th Gen Ford Mustang has some too. But if you just got out of the Ford versus Ferrari movie and you're feeling frisky, a 6th Gen Mustang is not a bad pickup if you're looking for a modifiable, reliable car that came naturally with a V8 or an EcoBoost that's still somewhat new, which is the weirdest thing about it. So what do you think about them? Love them or hate them? Let us know in the comment section below, and of course, let us know what you'd like to see us talk about next. And if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit up fitmentindustries.com. And if you won't do that, well then at least subscribe, okay? So we can keep making banging videos like this. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries. We will see you guys later. Peace.